games. But Joe, let's be honest. London is getting a team. You know, they're not playing 3-4 games in London already to not get a team. All they would have to do is add another 5 to that. So if they do that, they'll have to play, I would guess, against the Giants and the Jets and the Eagles. Like those would be 3 games. They probably would limit their West Coast games, at least at the beginning, just to see how it would go. I don't think it's a huge surprise for anyone. It's just logistically, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for the team to add a team in the NFL and then have them play San Francisco and Los Angeles. I mean, it couldn't be like it's the trips are just insane. It'd almost be like going to Hawaii for the East Coast. So you really can't have that. But yeah, I think that is definitely coming. I wouldn't say it's next year, but I think pretty soon. I would say in the next 5 years or so. As far as baseball goes tonight, it's an interesting slate, as you mentioned. We have no games coming on for about 90 minutes from now, but we did get major news today as far as injuries are concerned. In baseball, there were 3 significant moves in the last 24 hours that I think we should talk about, all involving major players. The first yesterday, of course, was Ketel Marte being placed on the restricted list, and they went out and lost 11-1. So the Diamondbacks, arguably, if Marte is not their best player, he's certainly their second best player. Corbin Carroll, I guess you could make a case for that, but they're very murky with Marte. It's the second straight year they've had an issue with him there. And he was reportedly still with the team and still in Boston. And some people, I guess, said they saw him at the bar even. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they said. So that's one. The second one is you can put a fork in the Rockies now. They officially did place Hunter Goodman on the injured list, who we talked about yesterday. So that's it. He's their best hitter. Rockies got absolutely smashed last night by LA. Now it's big trouble for the Rockies. I don't think they're in the same category as the A's, but definitely that's losing a massive, massive hitter for their team. And you wonder, Joe, would they bring him even back at the end of the season? I don't know. And then the New York Yankees today put Max Fried back on the injured list. So that, it's not solving a problem. It's still a major problem, but they are getting a couple of guys back soon who will go right into the rotation. And I'm guessing if Fried or when Fried comes back, it will be end of season, final week, postseason, get him in there, let him start game 2 or 3. So usually don't start off with a lot of injuries here, Joe, but at the top of the show, I thought those were 3 pretty significant ones too. And Marte's not an injury, but it's a player not playing on a team that's charging for the playoffs.
Well, it's also extremely weird because you're talking about a player who's in the middle of a 6-year, $105 million contract and has a history of, don't forget, what was it, 2025, I believe, last year, where after the All-Star break, he was asking for time off. Somebody burglarized his house. He was away from the team. They were trying to make a post. Yeah, like he has been. It's not like he's a $6 million a year guy. I mean, this is a guy making a ton of money with an absolute big impact on that lineup here. I mean, 34.9 career WAR with Arizona. He ranks 3rd on the all-time franchise WAR leaderboard. This was not like some sort of fly-by-night player they just picked up and released. It's such a weird story, Craig, but I guess where there's smoke, there's got to be fire. There is a history of this, and it's unfortunate that it's come to this, but on the restricted list now means what? He can't be with the team. He can't be with any other team. He's still under contract, right?
Yeah, he doesn't get paid though. So while he's on the restricted list, he doesn't get paid. And so I don't know the stuff behind it. I think Torey Lovullo may have said he's going for like an MRI even or something. Very, very strange story. I'm not really sure of all the details. There's been stories before that he picked days off that he didn't want to play and stuff like that. But make no mistake about it. I mean, he's made the All-Star team, it feels like, every year the last few years. Woof. It's a huge blow for the Diamondbacks if he's not back for the rest of the season, because it's not like that wild card is settled right now. You saw Philadelphia beat Miami last night. I guess Arizona, their saving grace is Miami lost. St. Louis lost that second game, and San Diego lost too. So there was really no ground to lose. But I would say without Marte, if he's not back, that's, it's not the dagger, so to speak, for Arizona, but it does make me feel a little different about them. I mean, he's their 2-hole or 3-hole hitter every single night. Yep. They got to get him back.
Yep, he is. And you're right. The Arizona Republic, the paper who follows him, said that he is on a plane back to Arizona to get an MRI on his knee, whatever that means. But restricted list means not a baseball related issue, that it's something outside of that, which is why you end up getting on that list. And boy, they could use them tonight because they're going up against a pretty good lefty there and Ranger Suarez with Boston. So as far as the Yankees go, you lose one lefty, Craig, I guess you pick another one up, right? Carlos Rodon is on the mound. So that's a just ridiculous wealth going on there. But what are we going to get from Carlos Rodon? No idea here. But it might not matter against the Orioles very much.
Maybe not. I mean, the Yankees, their offense since Judge has been out, it's been, I think I saw today the stat, the worst in baseball, if I'm not mistaken, 30th out of 30 in OPS since Judge, or maybe average on one of those stats since he's gone out. Look, I mean, the Yankees are just in such a good position right now because they've banked so many wins. The only pressure for them is basically for like them and Tampa and some other, just play 500 the rest of the season. That's all you need. And then you got to get hot at the end of the season and make the playoffs. So we'll see what Rodon adds to the table. I personally don't think he's as good as Max Fried. Fried is also playoff tested and has come through a lot of times in big ways for them too. So I'm going to guess they're going to just shut him down and hope. But I will say that Boone is generally one of those that always gives you the best news first. He's not going to usually tell you when something's seriously wrong. Anytime a guy is hurt, he'll be back the next day, the next week, and then it ends up being the season. No disrespect to him. It's just what they do in baseball. So I would not expect to see Fried back until the end of the season. As long as they get him back, by the way, at the end, and he makes a couple starts, he's probably ready to go in the postseason.
Yep, he should be ready to go. The MVP race, apparently, in the National League, heating up, too. We saw Ohtani go yard a couple of times last night. We've heard about the bullpen sessions that he'll eventually be back to pitch here at some point, but Pete Crow Armstrong just full display yesterday with the walk-off, right, to get it done for the Cubs. A lot of people claim, 4 for 5 last night, I believe. Leadoff home run, walk-off home run, double, walk, stolen base, 30-30 season. Again, his second straight 30-30 season. So did he win it last night? Did he clinch the MVP?
No way. I don't think so. But it's going to be close. I've given you my thought on it. I still vote for Ohtani anytime he pitches during a season. If Ohtani only threw 30 innings, maybe I would think the other way. But Ohtani ended up pitching almost half the season, and I don't even think he's done. Given the fact that a two-way player will be non-existent the minute that Ohtani retires, I'll keep voting for him to be the MVP because no one else is going to ever do what he's doing over the course of a regular season. But that being said, Pete Crow Armstrong has been a huge difference maker for the Cubs, and if he can hang on and keep this team afloat, maybe this is a Cubs team that can go deep into the playoffs. Personally, you could make a living betting on the Cubs collapsing and losing games outside of the 1 year they won the World Series, Joe. So I'll still bank on something going wrong with the Cubs because it usually does. But yeah, I mean, PCA's had a great year. There's no denying that.
Tremendous year. And kudos. The good news is the year's not over just yet. We got much more Major League Baseball to get to. Loaded slate here tonight with still a lot on the line, and we've got you covered here as Game Time Decisions continues on this Tuesday here in the SportsGrid Network. right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish here as we are getting ready for plenty of Major League Baseball action getting ready to come your way. His team's still battling here for postseason playing time here, and a lot of mediocre baseball teams to break into here. But the reality is, Detroit and Pittsburgh very much in the conversation in both the National League and the American League, trying to fill in one of those final wild card spots. And you said yesterday, Craig, you were, man, you didn't trust Pittsburgh.
Hold on a second.
You
Hold
did
on a
not
second.
trust
Wait a second.
Just saying.
I came on the air yesterday when we started this show, and I got ripped by the producers for saying that Tampa Bay never loses at home, and they got swept. So I tried to do a makeup, and I came on the air. Craig Mish never does like his stone cold lock of the year, and I did it for the first time ever, I think, on SportsGrid yesterday. Opened up the show and said, I got the pick for you. Now, did any producer say to me today, thank you, good job, hey, good call? No, nothing, just you're on the air in 5 minutes, that's it. I got absolutely nothing. I don't ever ask for that because I'll be wrong just as much as I'm right, 50%. But I did come on yesterday for the first time all season, and we're in August, and say, hey, I got one for you.
Yep.
And it was over after the second inning, wasn't it, Joe? It was over after the second inning of that. Now, I know they came back and scored some runs a little bit. I know you were, because that's how you are. Mm-hmm. But I got to say, I feel a little disrespect that, you know, got to call it 50-50 here. If I'm going to be wrong about something, I'm going to be right about it, because I'm not going to hit better than 50%. I know that. But call it what it was. Now I'll go back in my hole as far as making picks here on the show, and I'll give you another one in September, maybe, or October.
Look, listen, nothing. You called it right off the bat there. The producers are all about, what have you done for me lately? I'm hearing that was yesterday, Craig. What have you done for us today? But that's neither here nor there. The Diamondbacks were terrible last night.
What did you think about Majinski? Carmen Majinski. What do you think about it? Joe was like, awful. Joe got off the air last night, and after the game ended, and he was looking for he put in AI, when does Majinski pitch again? That's
correct. But I did also put in, when does Ashcraft pitch again? Because you were a very big fan of what he did.
Is this tonight?
And well, the answer is tonight. He is playing tonight, pitching against Detroit and Montero, who's also been very good.
He's good
now
too.
You're going Pittsburgh tonight.
I'm not saying it's like yesterday. Yesterday I was like, oh my gosh, I just saw this guy pitch. I couldn't believe how disinterested this guy looked pitching. It was so weird. Joe, it was when you watch a pitcher that's turning around to throw to second base, and literally like the shortstop's like putting his hands up in the air, like I'm not even there.
What are you doing?
Some weird stuff was going on with that guy. But the problem is Montero on the other side is a really good pitcher too. So I would lean toward a lack of runs in this game tonight. I think yesterday in that game in particular went way over, if I'm not mistaken. But tonight, I think it could be not as much scoring tonight. Ashcraft to me is a hidden gem in the National League. I know a lot of people know who he is, and he's had a good year. Look, his ERA, I think, is probably just under 4. Going into next season, I will absolutely be identifying him as a potential Cy Young Award winner. I really think he's got that kind of stuff. I think he's going to pitch well against Detroit tonight. He is getting stronger as the season goes on, and with all the talk about Skeens and even Jared Jones and Mitch Keller, to me, this guy is going to be close to Skeens, man. Like he's really good. So I'm looking forward to the start, but not going to say it's a guarantee or my favorite or anything, because Guido Montero, as you said, like this guy stepped into the rotation and done a great job.
And he's never going to get enough credit for what he has done to even put this Tigers team into this position, because for a while when they had Skubal and they had Mize, he was the spot guy. He'd come in out of the bullpen, they'd send him down, they'd bring him back up. And he has been absolutely phenomenal to him. Last time out against Cleveland, in fact, 6 1/3 shutout innings, 3-0. They ended up winning that. Yep. And there's a lot of juice in this series, given the fact that they got 37 games to play. And Detroit is now tied with, with Texas and Baltimore for that
crazy.
final wild card spot. I did not have it on my bingo card. I thought for sure once the sell was on at the trade deadline that we would just stick a fork in the Tigers, but we have not. And you mentioned this rookie that they have up there, absolutely raking. They have got, all of a sudden, they got a shot here. Why not them? In fact, Melton has been good. Montero.
He's good too, yeah.
They have got Connor Griffin, by the way, is also set to return for Pittsburgh. And I believe O'Neal Cruz, we thought last night he might be back. It's tonight. Yeah, I think he'll be there. He's going to be in there.
I think he's activated tonight. I think if I'm not mistaken. So he went through his pregame. The Tigers remind me a little bit of the Jays. The Jays got Jose Soriano. Mm-hmm. We're like, what in the world was that for? And now all of a sudden Soriano is shoving for Toronto, and they're back in the race too. So.
Yep.
I don't believe in Toronto in particular, and as you can see, the Twins are now falling to the bottom there. But I do think, including Toronto, who I don't think is going to make it, but including Toronto, every single one of those teams has a shot to make the playoffs, Joe. And we are in August and heading to September. That is wacky. Think about Philly or Miami or San Diego in the American League. We'd be saying they've clinched. We'd be saying, yep, they're right with Boston. They're right with New York. But the NL is just far superior this season. But yeah, I'll look. I'll probably check out that game. Of course, I'm usually locked into whatever the Marlins are doing on a nightly basis. But that's another interesting one for me because I'm just curious. After a guy throws a complete game, 85 pitches. Basically one pitch away from a shutout in Ashcraft.
Crazy.
What do you, you would think that he may be able to have that kind of start again because 85 pitches is like nothing. I'm going to be very curious to see how he performs tonight.
Yep, I'm with you. I tend to think maybe fewer runs could be happening in this game, but there is a lot at stake with 37 games left for both these teams tonight. Not something I thought we'd be talking about here in the middle of August, but yep, Tigers and the Pirates got a pretty big game coming up next hour. We've got a few more of those games. Toronto in Tampa, too, very much alive and well. So a lot to break down here as Game Time Decisions continues on the Grid. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish here as we're getting ready for plenty of Major League Baseball and a lot of juice in these games here tonight. We're about at that 36, 37, 38 game mark left in the regular season. We've got a lot of teams, very mediocre or less than mediocre in the American League especially, that are going to be playing some meaningful baseball down the stretch here, looking for a postseason berth. And heck, 30-plus games is still more than enough time to catch lightning in a bottle and make a run for something here. But, Craig, I saw this earlier today, and the first thing I thought was, well, serves you right for putting Minnesota on the Field of Dreams game, because the complaints are rolling in, the numbers are in. Netflix drawing less than, about 1.6 million viewers for the return of the Field of Dreams game. And, of course, that is unbelievably cut in half from what they had previously on the other renditions. Nearly 6 million, I believe, for that Yankee and White Sox game back in 2021. But yeah, you had the Yankees involved in a game. You had Cubs and Reds in a game, and you had Minnesota in a game. What do you think was going to happen here?
I think part of it is that Netflix is sort of an entity on its own as far as streaming. Like you can probably find yourself a free trial somewhere, but Joe, generally, to watch that game, you're watching it on a network that doesn't do a ton of sports, and you're having to pay. I know it's not a lot, but let's say you just wanted to watch that game, you basically have to pay $20. And I don't know that a lot of people want to do that. I don't know that a lot of people want to drop the 20 and then cancel their membership at the end of the month after 1 month. It's not like some of the other streaming services, which are $8 or $7, or even you get them sometimes for free with Dish or DirecTV. Like you're just, Netflix is on its own, so it doesn't surprise me. I just think people probably didn't download the app, didn't pay for a membership, and don't want to see that one game. There really wasn't a lot of allure to it. Opening day, same sort of thing. Look, I think Netflix is doing the right thing, and I thought the broadcast was really well done, and it makes sense that they want to get into sports. But and by the way, Netflix is very easy to find. It's on like a lot of people's just remotes too when you buy a new TV, but it does require money on the spot. And I'm guessing a lot of people, when they said, okay, it's on Netflix, they're like, all right, let me go to Netflix. Oh, wait a second, I don't have a membership, because some people don't. $20 just to see this game. I can cancel at the end of the month, but you sort of get the sense it's like just another, for the cord cutters, it's nothing. Everyone has it. But for non-cord cutters, they're just like, I'll just pass on this one and I'll just catch the highlights somewhere else. YouTube is very easily accessible for everybody. Click a button. A lot of people even have YouTube TV, but people with YouTube TV may not have Netflix. Like to have Netflix, you got to be a movie fan. Like that's it. Like you have to enjoy documentaries and movies. It's not a sports medium. Amazon Prime has become a very big sports medium, and a lot of games and even our network is on Amazon Prime or Amazon Prime Plus. That's not the case with Netflix. So I wonder what the future is with that, Joe. Like I wonder if they continue to push forward. Maybe they just say to themselves, you know what, let's just stick to what we know with the NFL. The NFL, we got 2 or 3 games this season. Let's stick with that. They want to get into it. But with this new collective bargaining agreement about to come up and baseball wanting to centralize the rights fees, what they're essentially doing, Joe, right now, unlike the NFL and unlike the NBA and some others, is Major League Baseball pieces together their rights fees. Apple, you get a little. Peacock, you get a little. Netflix, you get a little. ESPN, you get a little. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. They want to have one big check from someone like Turner, TNT, TBS, and put all the games somewhere like that. That's what they want. That's going to happen eventually, but it can't happen until they centralize all the rights. SNY, yes, Nesson, Marquee, they all got to get on board and come on board in the same spot. And when that happens in 2 years, it could be Netflix, but I have a feeling that you're going to see one streaming service, one network with all of the national baseball games.
Yeah, well, it was funny. Remember last year at the Speedway Classic, and half of it was rained out with rain delays, and even I
Yeah,
think that
the
averaged
Braves,
about
right?
the same. Yeah, remember that? And that was that averaged about the same viewership. But I'll say this: the Yankee Giants game, I think that opened up the season there, had about 3 million viewers on Netflix,
That's not
and
bad.
the Home Run Derby had 5.5 million viewers,
But
which was
that was the
also on Netflix.
least. Yeah, but
Y-
that
Yes,
was the
that's
that was the least watched home run derby in like 5 years. Also, I will say that
yes.
as well.
Well,
So just keep that in mind.
yes, it
I'm not
was
saying it's
since
failing on
2003.
Netflix. It's a more of a
Different.
destination spot to have to watch something, and I think that that's
Yes.
what baseball is going to have to sort out. Put all the games in the same spot, and you'll come to a better resolution.
Make it easy to attain. Game time decisions continues here on the grid. Guys. Game time decisions. Welcome back in here on the Sports Grid Network. Let's just be thankful you at home don't get to hear what happens in these every 2 minutes that we leave you. But the good news is we're back, and we got plenty of Major League Baseball to go over here tonight, including the Yankees at Baltimore. Now, we talked about Rodon stepping in here, his first time back. Shane Baz has not been good over the last couple of starts here for the Orioles. But if you're just joining us, I mentioned we're at 37 games left in the regular season. Baltimore, Detroit, and the Rangers are tied right now for the final wild card spot. And it's actually, they're tied for the final wild card spot, and everybody else below them is 1 5 or 6 game winning streak away from also making a run at. That's how bad it is in Major League Baseball. But having said that, the Yankees have always had success there at Camden. They've had a lot of success against the Orioles. This is a series they need to have here. Like, it's great that Judge is throwing, and I hope to have Bellinger back this weekend. Stanton is that's all fine and dandy, but they're going to have to start hitting their way out of some of these series here, and Baltimore gives them a pretty good opportunity to do that, although they just won 3 of 4, almost swept Tampa Bay 4 straight games in Tampa, so it's not like they're taking on an Orioles team that is, oh boy, they're falling off a cliff. No, they've actually been playing some of their best baseball over the last couple of weeks. And oh yeah, though, the Yankees, they did have a day off yesterday. I don't know if that plays into it at this point at all, Craig.
Yeah, it's a really tight money line here. The Yankees I see on FanDuel are minus 108, so the Baltimore on the other side plus 100. Part of that is probably the fact that the Yankees number one just don't score a lot. And also, you don't know what you're going to get from Rodon, and at the most you're getting 4 or 5 innings. And as you mentioned, Baz has not been great. I see Jackson Holiday is leading off for Baltimore tonight. I know that they would love to get him as much playing time they can before next season, and then just let him ride all of next year without injuries or anything else. Don't really have a strong opinion on this one because, as you said, the Orioles are playing better, and I kind of like, I'm thinking through the game, and it feels like 4-2 in the fifth or sixth, or 3-2, and you're just not sure which way it's going to go. Who's going to hit the 3-run home run to sort of break it? But I would say that Pete Alonso has his best shot to do some damage tonight, I think, in a game like this. So that would be at least a player that I would look at in tonight's game. I think that there's a chance total bases for him would be something to check out. And the total is not like a 7.5. It's 8.5. So it does tell you some runs are potential here. So it is a tough one to me. It was one of the games that I looked at before we started, and I was like, probably don't want to have anything to do with this one. But it is the first game up tonight, 6:36 p.m. at Camden Yards.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yankees, a little bit of a rest advantage, but the Orioles having a little bit of confidence here. So we'll see. Rodon, listen, sometimes he's his own worst enemy. So as long as he's not walking guys and giving free passes out, the Yankees certainly have the bullpen and the arms to be able to keep this thing close. But Tampa, I don't know how they came back and won that game yesterday against Baltimore, but they're home again. Toronto is coming to town. And yeah, all of a sudden, Tampa, who was beating up under 500 teams out west for the better part of 2 weeks, well, they came home and they took on a Baltimore team, kind of smacked them around here a little bit. And you mentioned it. The Blue Jays have done actually pretty well to give themselves even a chance at this mediocre wild card race. And it's an interesting matchup here tonight. It also feels like Martinez against Soriano. Like, this is why you went and traded for Soriano. Is it not, Greg?
He's pitched well for them, but look, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has had a miserable season, but he is a viable bat, and he's not playing tonight. He's on the concussion list, so he is certainly out for Toronto. Toronto's just had like everything that could go wrong for them this season has sort of gone wrong. But it's funny that you sort of think to yourself, unfortunately, with Max Scherzer, who's still in the rotation. Scherzer's day is coming around again soon, and that's a day that you think that you may need 4 guys out of the bullpen. I think Soriano's probably going to be forced to go very deep into this game today and save some of those bullpen arms for Scherzer. It's just the nature of who he is in his career. Nick Martinez hasn't had any issues. He's been fantastic at home all season. But naturally, because of Soriano's success, both with the Angels and with Toronto, I guess that's what makes them a slight dog tonight, and Toronto's definitely playing better baseball, but I probably would just at least lean again blindly toward Tampa Bay whenever they're at home.
Leaning a little bit towards Tampa, and it's hard to argue here because Springer's been terrible. You mentioned Glera's not in there. That offense is just falling off a cliff from where they were a year ago. Is kind of crazy in this spot, but Toronto, it is an American League East rival, so we'll see if this one and this series proves to be a good one for Toronto, who's trying to swing their way back into postseason berth here. As far as the Red Sox and Arizona goes, another one of these games where I don't know what we're going to get from Arizona. Merrill Kelly is on the mound. They just lost one of their 2 or 3 most important players. Certainly there, and Marte on the non-restricted list. He's not getting paid. He's not with the team. They get crushed last night 11-1. They got Ranger Suarez to go up against here today without one of their best hitters. It just feels like this game, another one of these games that could get out of hand in a hurry and could get away from Arizona if they're not really careful. The question is, do we trust Merrill Kelly to keep this game close enough in the middle to later part of the innings? And I don't know that we can.
Yeah, that's the hard part of it tonight, although I don't think as many runs will come in tonight. And I think Arizona, without Marte, their lineup changes significantly. If you look at their lineup tonight, Vargas, Carroll, Moreno, Perdomo, okay, like that's fine. But then after that, it's Tawa, Lawler, McCann, Fernandez, and Waldschmidt. That's not a good back end of a lineup for Arizona. So I see Boston as looking at the board here at minus 166. Vibes will not be good right now with the Diamondbacks. That is for sure. And I'm a little concerned about that now with losing Marte. It's really not a player that they could afford to lose because they're very thin as far as that is concerned. And by the way, Arenado I don't see in the lineup either tonight for the Diamondbacks. So, probably favor Boston tonight, but, never going to lay a minus 166, so maybe it's a run and a half just to make it work. I can't take the Diamondbacks tonight, Joe, after what I saw last night and also this lineup missing a couple of key guys for them today. And that's unfortunate for them because now the Diamondbacks may have to do some scoreboard watching. They're going to be rooting very hard tonight for the Mets.
Yep. Yeah, Merrill Kelly has been, listen, he's a gamer. He's had a horrible start to the season. He just wasn't he's still not missing many bats. So he's pitching to contact, which is always a bit dangerous. Yeah, Ranger Suarez, though, has been pretty good, certainly over the last month of the season for the Red Sox. It feels like this is another one where I'll split it in half, and I will 11-1. It's not like the bullpens got overworked last night in that matchup there. So likely going to be, who do you trust, Ranger Suarez or Merrill Kelly? Likely Suarez in the first 5 is the way I would look at that game there. I think this is also fascinating, the one coming up in the 6 o'clock hour between the Reds and the Cardinals. The Cardinals should have swept that game, that doubleheader last night. How the Reds came back and won that one is crazy. But they did score more than one run, which was interesting there. They'll have an opportunity with Abbott on the mound to take another one here, Cincinnati. But Leahy has been very good for the Cardinals. Another guy doesn't miss any bats, but he doesn't walk a lot of guys, and he didn't give up a ton of home runs. And he's pitching to about a 3.3 ERA, and he's been really, really good. 9-4 for them so far this year. We'll talk more about this game. We've got the Guardians and the Giants, which all of a sudden, can the Guardians get it back on track as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid? All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish, getting ready for plenty of Major League Baseball here tonight. And Craig and I were just talking about the game tonight between the Marlins and the Phillies. Now, again, we just saw this in Miami, and Craig saw it up close and personal this series. The Phillies were just here in South Florida. And yeah, they won some games here against Miami, but they were in epic come from behind fashion. The Marlins bullpen couldn't hold anybody down. But, last night we learned 250, 260 for Sanchez. Boy, that felt rich. Barely got by last night. Marlins had a chance again to win that game late. And here we go tonight. Zach Wheeler, who's given up 13 runs in his last 3 starts, Greg, but 250, 260 overnight. I'm seeing nothing but Marlin money coming in all day long. And it makes sense given what they just saw from him. It's not like they didn't have success for him here in South Florida. And there might be a little sign of maybe exhaustion happening here right now with Wheeler.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with Wheeler, but his first poor start really of the season was in Miami. The Marlins got to him. The Marlins swept the Phillies here. They came back in all 3 games to win those games. The bullpen for Philly just completely blew apart, and it almost blew apart for them last night too. Bolin again came in like he did in Miami and almost gave it up for a second time in the last 2 times that he faced them. But the Marlins today opted to not start Tyler Phillips, who has been a starter for them all season long, and they're going with a lefty, Cade Gibson. But this is it's an interesting move, and it's a little complicated for me. And I'm in the weeds a little more with Miami than anything else. And the issue for Miami, as I see going into tonight, is the same thing that went into last night, but maybe it's even more exacerbated here because if Gibson opens the game, they really don't have any lefties to get out the lefties on Philadelphia late in the game. This guy, John King, who came in and gave up a bunch of runs yesterday, I don't think you'll see him again tonight, which leaves them, I think, with no one. Or maybe Dax Fulton. They don't have almost anybody to get it. The thing with this game tonight, this is what I would say, is that the comeback that you saw last night from Miami, I don't think that happens tonight. I think the Marlins have to have a lead at some point today to take this game. I don't think if they fall behind, they come back like they have been, because I just think more runs are probably going to be scored in this game than we saw in last night's game. And I think Miami will get a little on Wheeler too. Whatever they figured out the last time, I think they can do it again. But this Cade Gibson is a reliever. He'll probably pitch an inning, maybe 2. Get through Schwarber a first time, get through Harper a first time, get through Marsh a first time, and then they'll turn it over to Phillips and hope that Phillips can have better success against Philadelphia, because unfortunately for Tyler, who, by the way, pitched for the Phillies and threw a shutout with the Phillies 2 years ago, Tyler Phillips, he just has not had the same success in this park when he puts on that Miami uniform. So, as I've said throughout this week, tomorrow is really the key game for me. I think Miami's got a good shot to win tomorrow. But tonight, obviously I can't come out on the air here and say Miami is like the biggest dog of the night and baseball is going to win. I hope so. But, realistically speaking, when you see something like that, you can't say that you think it's going to happen.
Well, listen, we said it yesterday on the show. I thought that I'm not paying 260 for Sanchez, as good as he was early in the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
He's missing fewer and fewer bats, and his last 5 starts, he is not what Philadelphia has not won. Wheeler's last 5 starts here. In fact, he's got 3 losses and 2 no decisions while giving up 13 runs. So there is maybe a little fatigue involved in this. And again, running to the window to lay $2 is not how you're going to make any money in baseball, betting on this sport. I can tell you that right now. And he's got nearly an 82% left on base percentage too, Craig. So, all of that finds a way to work its way back to the middle at some particular point here. I'm with you. I tend to think that maybe less runs, not more runs in this one here tonight.
I'll also say this, that in a normal situation, the Marlins wouldn't do this. They wouldn't just pull Phillips and put an opener there. But here's what's working in their favor. This is why I don't know this for a fact, but because I'm not on the road with them. But I think this is the thinking, Joe, is 2 things. Number 1, let's unload the bullpen today because we won't need it tomorrow because we have Sandy Alcantara, because we know that guy's going to go 7-8 innings. And Joe, they're off the next day. So I think you can do a bullpen game if you got Sandy the next day and nothing the day after that. I think you could kind of pull it off. So that's sort of their thinking. I'm going to take a look at the look ahead. It's not. I don't see anything for tomorrow. I'll be curious about tomorrow's game. What that says for Miami, but I don't see any odds currently now. I'm sorry, I'm leading forward here. I'm just checking it.
No, that's fine. But there. I don't see any either yet, but that doesn't doesn't mean that you're not close to it here. And I think tomorrow's a great shot.
Tomorrow's a great shot.
Anything can happen. Yep, anything is possible here tonight. I just would not expect crazy blowout. The Guardians are taking on the Giants at 6:40. Another shot for Foster Griffin with a new uniform here on for the Guardians. It has not exactly been a great, hey, welcome to Cleveland for him, but it's the Giants. Are we really thinking the Giants has enough offense to make them pay one way or the other, Greg?
Can't do it. Don't love, look, I'm not happy that Foster Griffin hasn't pitched that well with Cleveland. He did pitch better, I think, last time than he did his first time. Yeah. But Wisenhunt for San Francisco, Joe. Like, Wisenhunt, really? Like, come on. I can't back San Francisco here. And by the way, Cleveland, one of the few teams in the league, and I do mean a few, like Milwaukee and some others, they get to the end of the game, they got the guys to get you out if it's 2-1, so it is a juicy line at -184, but check back in if Cleveland leads 2-1 in the fifth. This line's going to be -300 because Cleveland does have a good bullpen. Even though they don't score a lot, they tend to be able to shut things down. I wouldn't say it's an immediate fade with the Giants because Logan Webb is so good, but outside of the games he pitches, Joe, I can't back that team. I can't back them.
I'm with you. I think there are some issues, to say the least, here with the Guardians, but Foster Griffin should be more than capable, especially given the fact he's coming from the National League. He's already seen the Giants. He knows what's going on with this lineup, and he's good to go. The Mets lit him up a couple of starts ago there. Detroit he pitched well at, but yeah, you're going to have to show up here tonight against the Giants. Guardians need wins. That's what they need in that division. Whether or not they get one, that's why they play the game here. In the meantime, we've got more game time decisions coming your way next year on the Grid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS, but then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as we look to wrap up this first hour together. And Craig, interesting enough, this Cardinals and Reds game tonight I find fascinating simply because the Cardinals have been playing much better baseball. Such a strange team all year. And the reason they're so strange to me, Greg, is because the underlying metrics of a lot of their starting pitchers are just, you keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. We've seen this with guys like Palante and McGreevy and maybe none better than Kyle Leahy tonight, who was going for them. But I got to tell you, the more I watch him, the more he's not going to miss a ton of bats. But, boy, he's going to make you swing at his pitches. He's going to give up weak contact. He's not going to kill himself walking a whole lot of guys. And next thing you know, it keeps them in games. They win games. And that's exactly all he has to do, I think, here tonight against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think he's in trouble tonight, Joe. I think this Reds team has a lot of problems. Yeah, I think he's in trouble. I do. Well, the Reds, are the worst team against fastballs in the big leagues, and they're okay against everything else. So, this is not the best spot for him, I don't think, Joe. The total is 9. Blade from the left side, Brian Hayes, who hasn't hit anything this season from the right side. These guys are making a living on non-velocity pitchers. So if there was ever a game where I thought the Reds may be able to score some, it could be tonight, Joe. This would be one that I don't love St. Louis in this one. I actually think Cincinnati does have a chance to win. But most of the league, Cincinnati just strikes out 15 times a game. This is not going to be one of those. Suarez, De La Cruz, a couple of those guys I think may get to Leahy tonight, Joe. It's just, again, I got to call it how I see it. And that's not to say that St. Louis can't get to Abbott. Maybe just a nondescript over for me tonight. Maybe just over the 9 would be my play here. I do think the Reds will post some runs tonight.
I agree. I think runs are coming in here, but I got to give a guy credit who's walked only 2 batters since the All-Star break in his 4 starts. So he is whatever he worked on works here, and he's also increased his strikeout capability here. I think the Cardinals are a very good defensive team, so I don't see him walking guys or hurting himself like that. The long ball is always the big issue with the Reds. That's how they really score their runs. And Abbott, he gives up his fair share of walks and the long ball. And will the Cardinals be the team that takes advantage of it? I don't know, but it does seem like, I don't know what you think of Marmol as a manager, but man, I watched him, the way he deployed that bullpen. You'd have thought they were playing in a postseason series, the way he's kind of going at this. And I give him credit, even though we kind of think, stick a fork in them, they're done here. But that's not the way he's managing and the way he's working that bullpen. He is, they are very much trying to win baseball games down the stretch to make it to the postseason.
Yeah, what I would say, Joe, is that the incarnation that you see the Cardinals have this year, exactly what you mentioned, by the way, with the bullpen, that's very accurate. And that's like Chaim Bloom's way, Tampa Bay, Boston type way. I think this incarnation of the Cardinals that you see this year is going to look completely different next year. The Palantes, the McGreevy's, the Liberators, the Leahys, I don't think any of them come back. I think it's going to be a completely different. Joe, they were supposed to lose 100 games going into the season. They're supposed to be the worst team in that division. So they've surprised some. Do not be surprised next year if you see a lot of sweeper slider type high velo pitchers joining the St. Louis Cardinals. But this was supposed to be a rebuild type year. They have been extraordinarily fortunate. They have not been hit with injuries like other teams have. The Cardinals are basically running out the same 3-4 guys all season long. Even Dustin May, they kept him healthy until they traded him to the Milwaukee Brewers too. So give him credit. You're right, Marmol. But this is a great example of what's going to be for the Cardinals, which is get 5-6 innings and then just start smashing lefties and righties against the end of the lineup. But to your point, Marmoli's not going to win Manager of the Year, but he's going to be in the top 3 in the NL at the end of the season. He's going to be there.
Yeah, he's fiery. I mean, his post game, you would think this is a guy like trying to hold on to first place. It's actually
They're
refreshing. There is no, yeah,
they're in it.
and you know what? It's working because the players are responding here. So kudos to the Cardinals, who they got an interesting one. It's a coin flip game tonight at the Great American Ballpark against the Reds here. This would be a big series win for them. Be a big win for Cincinnati, too, who also still trying to claw their way just 5 games under 500 here. All right, we got much more Major League Baseball on tap for you here tonight. We'll have all the headlines you missed throughout the day as Game Time decisions. Another hour straight ahead here on the Grid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS. But then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome in. Game Time decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. We've got you for the next hour here, getting you ready for a ton of Major League Baseball here. No afternoon games today. Everything, 6 games, in fact, getting ready to start this hour. The rest after the top of the hour. But a lot going on across Major League Baseball. We've learned of some new injuries. Obviously, the Yankees lose a lefty in Max Fried. They gain a lefty in Carlos Rodon tonight. In one of the strangest stories that you will see for a team battling and trying to contend, now losing one of their best players and one of the guys in the lineup here that makes them formidable, the Arizona Diamondbacks, who got crushed last night. They're gonna have to dig deep here tonight without Marte, because I guess not only is that a slap on the wrist, Craig, there seems to be an awful lot of confusion about where was he last night. Didn't show up to the game. Nobody really knows. Nobody's talking. Maybe he's on his way back to Arizona, but there is no denying a guy making $100 million in a 6-year contract. That's a big loss one way or the other for this Arizona Diamondbacks team.
Yeah, I really like their manager, Torey Lovello. It feels like the Diamondbacks are in it a lot, Joe, every year, no matter who they have. It feels like he gets the most out of his players, and he has always been a staunch defender of Ketel Marte. This is the first time, I think, since he's been there that I'm not seeing that here. Joe, I got to tell you, listen, sometimes, read things. I don't have any like info on this in particular. I think there's a chance Ketel Marte's played his last game with the Diamondbacks. I think there's a real chance that this is it. You don't place a guy on the restricted list, and naturally it seems like he thinks he has some sort of injury. Maybe Marte does, that he's going on his own to go get an MRI. So Lovello in this press conference he had an hour ago seemed very disappointed. And usually doesn't throw his players under the bus at all, but it kind of feels like he did here a little bit. I don't know that we'll see him again. Marte, to me, talent-wise, are there three better second basemen in baseball? I don't think so. I think he is in that category of elite guy at that position, but it may just be time. It doesn't seem like Marte likes playing for the Diamondbacks, Joe. Let's just say what it is. It seems like something is broken there. There will be teams lined up this offseason to trade for that guy and try and fix whatever is broken in Arizona. But it's a big blow to the Diamondbacks down the stretch. Also, the Dodgers just a short time ago announced that Edwin Diaz is going back on the injured list. Of course, Diaz hasn't been able to get anybody out, Joe, since he's come off the injured list. And that's another injury that, on a normal team, you'd say devastating. But on the Dodgers, you're just like, on another team, the Dodgers are just like, we just burned $100 million. It's okay. We'll find somebody else. I mean, Dodgers I know they're 5-10 or 5-11, whatever, 6-10, whatever, in the last 16 games. But the truth is, Tanner Scott is there. They have other relievers. They'll figure it out and get by. Definitely have to ask yourself the question, will Edwin Diaz pitch for the Dodgers again this season? I don't know that answer.
I don't think he will. Not with what they have. Glass now is on his way back too, I believe, right, Craig? And we know how in the postseason, they got now, Skubal in that rotation there. Although Robleski just hit the IL, right? Some injury concern there, but they did get Snell back. Glass now's coming back, and Ohtani is throwing in the bullpen. So they will likely, if they have to go with 10 starters in the bullpen, they'll go with 10 starters in the bullpen, Greg. right?
I think Ohtani controls so much of everything that he does. It seems like a deep long shot. But would Ohtani come in the ninth inning, Joe? Would Ohtani close games for the Dodgers in the play? Would that be crazy? Is that? I mean, I feel like no. I feel like he's going to start, and that's what he wants to do. But wow, can you imagine if they converted him to the closer?
I think a lot of that is going to depend, Craig, on how that knee feels. If the knee is a problem and he's good, because the last thing you want is jeopardize him. And don't forget, he had long stretches that when he pitched, he wasn't great at the plate. So, then they give him that day off. You notice that after he started pitching for a little while, we want to do. So it depends on how that knee is. I think if he is asked to come in and get 3 outs in the ninth inning in game 6, he would absolutely come in that situation there. But they're going to have to be careful with what's going on, because you can't lose his bat. And I think that's the thing that they need to be worried about the most here. But plenty of else going on here. Big night there, obviously. For a lot of teams that are battling. We had mentioned last hour, just coming up here, you got a lot of teams that are battling for position with about 36, 37 games left. That's also going to include Pittsburgh taking on Detroit, Cleveland, San Francisco. Will the Guardians get it back on track? Well, Foster Griffin's on the mound. It would be nice if somebody gave him some run support here. But the Padres last night against the Mets. You and I talked about this game. We love, Nolan pitched last. Nolan McClain pitched last night.
He's good.
And you know what? We said it here. You talked Walker Buehler. Do not sleep on Walker Buehler. Guy that's been there, done that, keeps the ball on the ground. Citi Field is not a hitter's ballpark, despite what a lot of people think. Now Robbie Ray goes tonight for the Padres. Thornton goes for the Mets, but say what you want about the Mets. They've been winning some games here, Craig. Have they not over the last week or so?
Yeah, they have been, and the odds are telling us, though, that this is not going to be a low-scoring game. You don't see a lot of Citi Field games with a total above 8. It's 8.5 tonight. And maybe part of that is the top of that lineup facing Thornton is very dangerous, I think. I'm going to side with the Padres tonight, even though Robbie Ray hasn't done a really good job yet for the Padres. I think runs will come tonight. Usually when I see a Citi Field total this high, I'm like, okay, I must be missing something. So maybe that is the case. Boy, the Padres, look, the Phillies probably, have a decent chance to win at least one of the next two games. Padres, regardless, last night, once the McLean game is gone, Joe, you should be able to beat the Mets the next two. You should be able to win. The Padres should win this game tonight. Yeah, I think a higher total tonight for me, and I think the Padres will win. I think they will go to New York and win tonight.
The problem that I have is that, Robbie Ray has had a walk problem. He's a fly ball pitcher that has gotten away with a lot this year, but his last two games, 8 walks in 9 innings. No shocker that he lost. He gave up 4 against Houston. He gave up 2 in only 4 innings against Milwaukee. But, man, you can't have 8 walks and only 6 strikeouts as we're moving along. That is going to come back to bite you at some particular point in the game. So hopefully he gets the Mets to chase on some pitches out of the zone. But he does feel, fly ball pitcher here, it does feel like if he makes a few mistakes and you let him throw some pitches, the Mets will have a puncher's chance. And I think maybe that's why we're starting to see that line go up here tonight, because who's been hitting better than the Padres over the last month since the All-Star game, Greg? They've been red hot, and they're hitting for power.
Yeah, they have the most home runs, I think, since the All-Star break. Yeah, I mean, Washington, in the National League was that team, but James Wood went down, and it doesn't seem like Wood was, by the way, is eligible to come back. He hasn't even been on the field, so I don't know that Wood is coming back at all for Washington. But yeah, you're right. San Diego, listen, it's something. Tatis got hot, Machado got hot, Merrill got hot, Sheets all at the same time. Like that's what happened. The Padres just started hitting. I don't think the Mets will beat them tonight. I don't think so. And the Padres got to be licking their chops right now, looking at Arizona like, oh, that team's in disarray. They're in Boston. Let's just win a couple here. My feeling is going to change on the without Marte. It changes my opinion on the Diamondbacks moving forward if that's it for him.
Well, coming up here, guys, we have one of Craig Mish's favorite teams. And this should be the game of the night, without a doubt. We're going to take you to Kauffman Stadium as his Athletics are going to be taking on the Kansas City Royals in what should be a fantastic pitching matchup and likely a very low-scoring game. We'll talk about that as we get ready for a big night Major League Baseball. Game Time Decisions continues on the Grid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS. But then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan has versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we get you ready for a loaded slate Major League Baseball down to the wire here. Just about 36, 37 games left in the regular season. Getting ready for some postseason baseball with a whole lot of very mediocre teams in the American League battling for a position in the postseason. You got the Orioles, you have Detroit, you've got the Texas Rangers, all tied right now for that last spot, that last wild card to get in. And listen, you got to be in it to win it, right? Straight, it's still 36 games, Greg. There's still plenty of time for a team to find lightning in a bottle here and just ride that right into the postseason and become extremely dangerous. I don't know that the Athletics will be part of that conversation, but they are taking on the Royals at Kauffman Stadium. And you and I were just laughing. They got an opener now, the Athletics. They are so bad. And even we said it last night with Walk on the Mound, when the Royals are a minus 190 favorite against anybody, you know it's likely they're playing a AAA team. And they won big last night. They're likely going to win big again tonight. It just feels, I don't want to run and lay a run and a half with home teams who are only going to get up with 8 at bats, Craig. But who are we kidding here? They're really starting to hit the ball, the Royals, at home. Yeah, I ain't laying 170 with Lynch on the mound, although he's been fantastic for him.
Yeah, as we talked about, the A's are just an absolute mess, and the pitching is not going to get any better for them tonight. Lynch has been pretty good for Kansas City. I would expect the Royals to win. I do not think the A's have a chance in this one. The A's playing without Nick Kurtz, without Soderstrom, without Langoliers. I think last night I saw Jeff McNeil leading off for the A's. They did not think that would have to be the case this late into the season.
Yep.
But here we are, the A's, and he's a recognizable name. Nothing against Jeff McNeil. He's had a great career, but they're in a world of hurt right now. And look, you never want to say that a team has quit and they don't care. They are playing, Joe, as bad as a team. Like, it looks like they are just ready to go golfing in October. Like it looks over for them. So, as we talked about yesterday, there are 36, 37 games left. And the A's are going to win 5 or 6. Like, that's a lock. They're not going to lose them all. But we just don't know when they're going to come. And eventually they're going to kill you. I don't think tonight is that night, though. They'll pull off some magical win before the end of the year and win a few. But they're going to finish with the worst record in baseball. They're going to lose probably 110 games. And this is after them being above 500 in April. You don't see teams lose 100 games after being above 500 after the first month, but they were.
And on the flip side, don't sleep on the Royals. We know they're not going anywhere quickly, but they did get Garcia back last night, had a huge night for him. Vinny P came back last night, too, after missing 3 weeks. And all of a sudden, Witt's got hitting home runs. You got Cartagena, you got Garcia. If Caglione could ever figure it out, it would be great, but yeah, I think this team's more than capable of scoring some runs here, though. No, especially at home.
They're not a good. Yeah, but Kansas City's not good. It's just they're playing the A's, and the A's are just so miserable that they're going to lose 2 out of 3 or get swept in almost every series the rest of the season. So everybody just sweeps the A's, and it's the get right time now for Kansas City. But let's not get it twisted. Kansas City, all they're playing for is spoiler at this point. But Kansas City has games against the White Sox, they have games against Cleveland, and they have games against Minnesota remaining. So naturally, they're going to play a part as to who wins that division, but I just wouldn't overrate what you're seeing right now because, do the A's, I guess I would ask this question. They right now with their current roster, they have 26 men on the roster. Would you say that 10 of the 26 guys, as I'm looking at it here, would you say 10 would be playing for other teams in the big leagues currently active? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's how bad they are. Maybe 5.
3/4 of that
10.
lineup is AAA players. That's all they are.
At least.
They're AAA guys.
And pitching.
They're not.
And pitching.
Yeah. Yes. Same thing. The pitching and the bullpen, we knew that too. But if I'm looking to play, I don't need to play wins and losses. If I get Kansas City at 3.5 or 4.5 team total runs against inferior in pitching, I'm taking the Royals to score some runs in some games in the final 36, 37.
I agree with
they're
that.
healthier now. Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yes. And I think they can score some run. 9 last night. I think they can score the same here tonight against what's amounting to be a bullpen game for the Athletics. We got much more coming up here. Of course, we do have the Atlanta Braves taking on the Minnesota Twins. Interesting matchup there. Tyler Mahle against Zeb Matthews. Mariners and Brewers is an interesting one as well, Craig. Not to mention White Sox and the Cubs. Gausman on the mound for the Cubs, who walked it off last night in epic fashion with Pete Crow Armstrong letting everybody know he is back. And the MVP race, don't hand it just to Ohtani. He might have a little something to play there. And I keep hearing that you might very well be interested in the Angels tonight, which I find fascinating.
I do.
I thought
like
they
the
were
Angels
on the
tonight.
no-go list. I thought they were on the no-go list.
Look, I would say absolutely plus a run and a half for the Angels tonight and lay your minus 130 or minus 140. Yeah, I think the pitcher for the Angels is not bad. George Klassen, he's not bad. I think this is going to be a close game tonight. And Christian Javier hasn't gotten anybody out all season. So I don't know. I don't like the Angels at all, but sometimes I can only speak to what I see. And that doesn't count for TV a lot of times, Joe. When I say I like something, It's usually something I see in person. Because it just has a different feel for me. And this kid wasn't bad against Miami. Like, he got through the lineup twice. Now, if he's going to pitch to Jordan, they're going to lose. But beyond that, and he's a little wild, Klassen. He's going to put some guys on, too. I think we're in for a close game tonight. I think the Angels may win, but definitely keep it close.
Are we going to get an Angels win in Houston? Will the White Sox bounce back after losing to the Cubs? And will the Braves bounce back, having lost to the Twins last night? These are games that we'll go over for you, get you set up here. Plus, more Angels and A's talk. Does it get any better than that? Game time decisions. Come on, we're getting you ready here on the grid. Come back and join us.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS, but then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. We got plenty of Major League Baseball to get to here. We'll get you set up as 6 games coming up, about 20 minutes here before the top of the hour. But also some NFL news and notes from around the league here, as we did get, as a New York Jet, the resident New York Jet fan here on the network. Yes, Breece Hall, who we heard just fell down without being hit yesterday, looked like a groin injury. And we heard from Aaron Glenn today, 2, maybe 3 weeks at tops. I don't know about that. But speaking of running backs, 28-year-old Najee Harris, who you may recall, I believe did have a bottle rocket accident last preseason, but was with the Chargers. And then in week 3, tore his Achilles. And, well, he worked out for the Giants on Monday, and Harbaugh loved him and thought this would be great addition to the backfield. And guess what? That's what they did. They signed him now in the backfield for the Giants, given a little extra depth there. And listen, the guy's a beast, 240 pounds. I mean, he's 6'1", 240. Call me crazy here, Craig. The more they can run the ball, the more that's right up into Harbaugh's alley there. You can never have enough power running backs, and they've got some. Cam Scatterboot, Tyrone Tracy, Singletary. They have got some running backs on this team.
Yeah, I don't know what this one is about. It is a little weird for me because you just mentioned that Cam Scatterboot is there, and Tyrone Tracy was pretty good when he played, and Singletary... maybe that's what it is, Joe. Maybe it's Devin Singletary's job is on the line here going into the season, and Harris takes that 3rd spot, because it wouldn't really make sense to me, Joe, to bring in Harris to be the 4th guy in that running back room. That doesn't equate to me. So maybe it's more of an indictment on Singletary. Maybe even they're going to trade Tyrone Tracy somewhere else. Like I think. It opens up more questions about the 2 and the 3 on that team, what they think about him. And then the other part about this in the NFL, Joe, is that you sign Najee today, and in 2 weeks you say goodbye. That could happen too. It very well could happen, and maybe it's just depth for the time being. But the preseason is coming up this week, and the NFL season, as close as it is still a little bit far away. Like, it's just true. Like, we're not going to get NFL games for still another 3 to 4 weeks. So this week is really the only time that if you love the NFL and you love watching your players play in the NFL, this is it. Like, because you're not going to see them the next week, and then it's going to be, a while until the season begins. So I looked at the lines before the show today, and I only found a couple of lines that were like 4 or 5. It feels to me that maybe the odds makers, Joe, don't know who's playing in the games this week, because every line is like 1, 2, 1, 2, 2.5, 1, 2, 2, like every line. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. I did see. Now, the one thing that I know is that the Chiefs never play anybody in the preseason. So that I understood why they were going to be big dogs, whoever they play in the preseason. I get that, because they literally, Andy Reid does not believe in playing anybody in the preseason. But beyond that, why are the lines so tight every game?
Because with only 3 games in the preseason, this is the game we are likely going to get a half from the starters. They're not going to play the starters in week 3 of the preseason. So the game action for the starters are going to be this week, which is why you've seen the numbers come down. You're seeing the totals also shift a lot depending on what's coming out. Let's face it. The Browns have to figure out who their quarterback is. They're running out of time. Right. Is it Deshaun Watson? Is it Shedeur Sanders? So, there are some position battles that are going to play out here. Still got to figure out what they're going to do with the Raiders. Who's going to be your quarterback week 1? Is it or is it? Are you going to go with the rookie Mendoza, who looked pretty good in his first start? So. There are a lot of teams, I think, that still have some important positions, and there are going to be some battles. You're going to see a lot of starters this week. And maybe the thing I can't wait to see the most with the Giants is they had to cut Juju Smith-Schuster from the team to make room for Najee Harris. Does
His career's
Odell
over.
Beckham Jr. make the team?
Oh my
is
gosh.
my question. Does he make the team? It would be.
I guess.
I'm just saying. That would be absurd.
Joe, he was a
if he does.
shell. Joe, his name is so much more popular than the player. Joe,
and he's still on here.
He couldn't get on the field with the Dolphins in that room without Tyreek Hill. I am
with you.
He can't play anymore. Why is this guy so popular still? I don't understand it. He's like,
I'm just saying, it's
Odell Beckham.
I tell you what, jersey
How long
sales,
ago was
because
that?
that would be. Oh, forget about it. You might as well bring back Plaxico Burress. Is he still around or is he in jail yet? Did he shoot himself in the
David
other leg?
Tyree?
Unreal. Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS. But then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions, and no place else on this network will you hear Plaxico Burress references anytime soon. I can assure you that. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish, because that's how long you got to go before you figured out the Giants actually have no receivers that are actually healthy heading into the season. But we got plenty of Major League Baseball coming up here, just about 10 minutes away from the opening pitch here, Greg. 640 games or so we've got that are going to take center stage. A lot of games after the top of the hour, including, I think it's interesting, Atlanta and Minnesota. Minnesota got it done at home last night against the Braves, 4-2. Tyler Mahle, not exactly a big Tyler Mahle fan, although he's had some outings where he looked his last two for him against the Yankees and the Mets have been really good for Atlanta. But, Zen Matthews is a guy that he's going to miss over the middle of the plate, and something tells me Olsen and Acuna, this could be run time for Atlanta tonight.
Yeah, the only thing is Minnesota does know Mahle pretty well because he was there.
Yep.
So, that's definitely a factor involved in the game. It's why I don't have an opinion on this one tonight. And, I certainly think the Braves, are dominant at home. That's very clear. On the road, they're a little bit of a different team. I don't expect Minnesota to win, but it's not a position that I would take tonight, Joe. I really think that Atlanta, when they're at home, virtually against anyone, they fall to me just outside that Milwaukee category, Tampa Bay category. Braves to me are like the third or fourth best home team in baseball, but they will lose a series every now and then on the road. I'm not sure if it'll be against the Twins, but as you said, Molly is not someone that you just like want to run to the window. You don't want to back him. And Zebby Matthews actually is probably going to go 5-6 innings tonight and give up 3 runs. I expect a close game tonight.
I like Acuna. I like some home run props in that game because both guys could be more than capable of giving up the long ball there. You've got Seattle at Milwaukee tonight. Also interesting here is you've got you know what to do is right. Milwaukee at home in game. If they're leading heading into the 6th inning, you definitely want to back Milwaukee with the lead. It's probably over. But I got to give Seattle credit. They've been scrappy here over the last 10 days here. They did have wins over the weekend, right, that I didn't see coming there. I thought, but then again, they've beaten Houston all year, so maybe we shouldn't be shocked that they actually beat the Astros in Houston. But the Brewers returning home after taking 3 of 4 against the Dodgers. So a bit of, I think it was nice since the Dodgers, swept them out of the 2025 championship series here. But the reality is, I think, Kyle Harrison going, who was not good last time out. I'm just going to say that. But Bryce Miller going for Seattle, he was great when he first came back 2 months ago, but he's progressively walked more, thrown more pitches, given up more home runs. Doesn't feel like a great matchup for Bryce Miller here. But, again, Kyle Harrison did not look good last time out we saw him either.
No, I would expect him to bounce back. And even still, a close game, usually Milwaukee wins. You mentioned Uribe yesterday being out. That's definitely a factor. But they still do have enough bullpen arms. And look, the one thing that with the Brewers, they are not scoring 7-8 runs tonight. So you're going to sweat it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. You're going to think Seattle has a chance. It's always the way that their games go. And then Contreras hits a home run or Yelich drives in a run. And then the game just ends and it's 3-2. You can always do the +1.5 with Seattle, but you're not getting, you're laying huge minus money to do that, I think, tonight. So I just would lean toward Milwaukee if I had a choice. Maybe pair them with another big favorite or somebody else that you like to get the odds down for you a little bit.
Yeah, I think, again, he gave up 10 hits against the Padres, but the Padres have been raking, and they beat him up pretty good there, Kyle Harrison, last week. But to the point about Bryce Miller, he's given up 11 runs in his last 3 starts. And
he didn't look good when I saw him either. Yeah,
right?
Against Miami, he didn't
slowed down
good.
a little bit, I think. Yeah, and that was
I don't think his stuff
July.
is the same.
Yeah, exactly.
He was
June,
their best pitcher.
Great.
Yeah, he was their best pitcher for a stretch. I don't know that he is going right now. And Miller's issue through the years too is staying healthy and making 25, 30 starts, which I don't know that that's going to happen. And look, Seattle's still in it, just like everybody else is in it. But they really can't hit. Cal Raleigh can't hit. Pitching has been subpar. Good news for Seattle is if they have a lead, they generally can close it out. But they'd have to take a lead tonight in Milwaukee, which most teams don't do.
7.5, I think, is that total there, and that might be a little high there. That could be too many runs. It might be a little bit lower scoring game for sure here tonight in that one. But Texas Rangers still trying to figure it out here, Craig, and they're going to have an opportunity against Washington here to get it going. I just can't trust them offensively. I don't know what to make of them. Jackson Kent, the rookie for Washington here tonight, and you mentioned Cal Quantrill, not great, but he is what he is for him. He's a fourth, he's a number 4, and he's he'll go 4 or 5 innings for you. Hopefully, keep it up, but his last 4 starts for the Rangers, he's only given up 3 earned runs in his last 4 starts.
He's been okay.
The problem is they're not giving you any run support. That's the problem with the Rangers.
And even without Wood, Washington still seems to be scoring some runs. So I kind of like Washington a little bit tonight. I don't know. I kind of feel like they may be a little bit of a sneaky play. I do maybe think an over is in play in this game also tonight. Neither pitcher's going more than 4 or 5 innings. So then you're getting bullpen action. The Texas bullpen has one really good guy in Latz. Washington's bullpen has almost no one. So, maybe that's the story tonight, Joe, is that you wait until halfway through the game and then pound the over in the 5th or 6th inning.
Yeah, I got to, Texas, I got to see it to believe it, because you have been atrocious. I don't care who you're facing. You have been terrible when it comes to scoring. You made the Angels look competent, although Craig loves them here tonight. A couple more games coming up here. In fact, the White Sox taking on the Cubs. You got those Angels against Houston. And then, of course, the Dodgers are taking on Colorado here tonight in game number 2 of that set. But you mentioned, too, Goodman is now on the IL. We didn't know if he'd be in the lineup, but you're saying they put him on the IL now, right? That's a big loss for Colorado.
Yeah, that's by far and away, Joe, their best hitter.
Oh.
Their all-star, the best hitting catcher in the big leagues this season. And yeah, like that's like taking, look, the Yankees have 7 guys, so you lose Judge, you could still win. The Rockies are not going to win a lot without Goodman back there. It's a major problem for them. So I like we talked about, I do think the Rockies win a game this series though at home. What I could see, Joe, is a long losing streak for Colorado to end the season on the road, but they're always going to punch in a win every now and then at home. Last night, there was no shot of that. The game was over before it started. Is tonight the night? Because I don't think they're winning tomorrow. So is tonight the night that they get it?
It's going to be time. That's 34 home runs that are not in that lineup now this
He's
year
a
with
monster.
Goodman now. And he's especially in Colorado. But they also have, I think their third baseman, Kyle Karros, also in the. Why are so many guys getting concussions in Major League Baseball? What am I missing here, Craig? Are they getting drilled with fastballs?
What's interesting, by the way, Goodman, I think, has 25 road home runs, by the way, and 9 at home.
Oh, yes. Oh, you're right. Yep.
I think
but only everyone else hits at home.
Yeah, no, the rest of the team does hit at home. Weird season, but the Goodman injury is one for the rest of the season. Maybe not one tonight, but it's now going to catch up to them losing him. As you said, 34 from a catcher. That's like Cal Raleigh category from last year.
Should have been on the Yankees, but they didn't pull the trigger. I digress. Bottom line is, we got much more to get to as Game Time Decisions continues here on the.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS, but then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network, which means we've got some decisions to make here. Plenty of games coming up in Major League Baseball here tonight. In fact, first pitch underway in a number of spots, including your Marlins there, Greg, in Philly. Wheeler on the mound here tonight, who Miami had some success against there when he was in Miami. It has not been a good month for Zach Wheeler at all. It also, the market is telling us that because they opened up a 250, 260 favorite overnight and just about $2 now at first pitch. So the market thought, wow, is that way overpriced? They did the same thing last night. And look at that. The Marlins had an opportunity to win that game last night. And boy, I think did Duran, I think he did pitch last night in the ninth inning. So you got to be careful with that here tonight. But I don't know. The hitting, Marlins, I mean, we know Stowers is not there. They've had some injuries. They're still putting up some runs here, though, the Marlins, no?
Yeah, they don't hit a lot of home runs, so that's the major issue. But they have Xavier Edwards and they have Otto Lopez, and they get station to station. They play Esteury Ruiz. He gets a hit. He steals second. He steals third. It's kind of the way that they're going to have to play,
like baseball.
Tomorrow, I think Joe Mack will be back. It looks like catching for the Marlins. That's a big boost for them.
That's
if
huge.
He does come back. Yeah, because Navarreto, by the way, their catcher yesterday hit his first home run of the season. That was a shock. That was out of nowhere. Navarreto has one career home run. It happened last year, so that was a stunner to bring them back. But yeah, look, they're going to be up against it tonight. They're one of the biggest dogs in baseball tonight. But as we saw last night, anything can happen in any game, and you never know. So far, I think we have 6 games underway. We only have one team with a runner on, and it is the Giants. They have a runner on first, but everybody else is being made quick work of. Although we're still in the top of the inning. Shane Baz struck out Grisham to start the game. Then he struck out Ben Rice. He was the next batter up, and then Baz is facing Helio Ramos right now. So that's kind of where that game is.
Well, they've got the other game you mentioned there, the Giants, where we've got Foster Griffin on the mound, who's allowed 8 runs on 11 hits in 9 innings for the Guardians. But only 6, Greg, of those runs have been earned. He's given up 3 home runs, fly ball kind of guy, gets a lot of teams to chase, and the Giants are another one of those awful teams that has no plate discipline. Plus, they don't hit lefties very well. This feels like a really good spot for the Guardians to get off on the right foot in this series here, especially with him, provided he doesn't give any free traffic or give up, Rafael Devers home runs here, because I think that's the only guy left on that team that can actually hit one.
Yeah, I mean, Devers is still a force. I wonder what the Giants are going to choose to do at the end of the season, if they want to, keep him around for the long term, or if they want to find some team that is opening up the purse strings this offseason. I still think he's a force in baseball. I would keep him. I think that they made such a big investment in him and traded a lot to get him. It would make no sense for the Giants to do that. And the Giants, the one thing that you could say about San Francisco is that you would think that with a team that usually carries a $250 million payroll, that they would be one of those teams that would not want the salary cap and the salary floor. But I disagree. I think that would help the Giants. They've had a terrible time, Joe, getting guys to go play in San Francisco. They tried for Judge, they failed. They tried for Correa, they failed. They tried for Garrett Cole, they failed. They end up getting who? Yeah. Willie Adames and Jorge Soler. Like they have to spend their money somewhere. I think a cap and a floor would help that team, because it would force some players to have to take some money and go play for them. By the way, Toronto is the first team, I believe, on the board tonight. So they are off to a 1-0 lead on Nick Martinez and the Tampa Bay Rays. I saw a base hit scored Alejandro Kirk. I'm not sure who got it, but the Blue Jays do lead 1-0. So that's the first score in baseball today.
All right, so
Springer?
we got a first inning Yerfie going on with Toronto and Tampa. Nothing. My Philadelphia is up now. Cincinnati also up now in the bottom of the first. Their big one, sneaky in that game, though. Soriano against Martinez. I'm looking forward to it. Soriano seems to have gotten some new life here since he switched and got away from the Angels here, and but they got to be able to score runs, Toronto. That's the bottom line in that one there. Couple of other games coming up still a little bit later here, Craig, and I think one of the other ones is about that Angels team that you liked here tonight, taking on as you can see it there, they're taking on Houston. I don't like Houston's offense lately. And yes, they got the back end of the bullpen, but yeah, they've been scrappy, the Angels, to your point. And as long as this kid is not walking everybody on base, you think a run and a half's not a bad look here.
Yeah, I kind of like the Angels a little bit here. I don't know. Something tells me that this guy Klassen could end up having a good start. I don't know why I think that, but maybe because I saw him pitch and thought he did a good job. But, his control is the issue. If he puts guys on, it is trouble. Also, Jesus Sanchez of the Jays just doubled off the fence. That drove in Springer, who got the hit to score Kirk. So how about that? Toronto already with a 2-0 lead in Tampa Bay off Nick Martinez. I would venture to say that Nick Martinez has probably not given up 2 runs in the first inning of any game this season. That'd be a guess. I don't know that for fact, but he's been that good.
Well, yeah, he had a rough outing, I think, last time out. One of his last couple of starts was a bit... He was due for some regression. I think we all knew that.
Agreed.
It was just a matter of finding the right offense and lineup that would be able to make him pay for some of that. So, but 2-0 here. The only scoring up on the board right now. Yankees, now Rodon out to start here. And don't forget, this is his first start since... June, I think, Craig, if I'm mistaken. It's been a hot minute yeah, and he wasn't very good when he was pitching this year. Had a lot of walk issues, control issues. We'll see if they were able to figure anything out there. But Yankees would be nice if they could start the series off with a win here. And you mentioned Holiday up at the top of the lineup here, facing Carlos Rodon for the first time in 2.5 months. We'll see how that goes for you. Plus a big one in Chicago, Battle of the City coming up a little bit later. We'll get you all caught up with that as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS. But then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we look to, that's a 3-run home run, boy. Joe Adell of the Guardians just hit one almost out of Progressive there to go up 3-0 in the bottom of the first against the Giants there. That's exactly why they went and got him. That ball was hit a very long way. That is for sure. 2-0 Toronto on top of Tampa. So we got a couple of Yerfies going on here. No score. I think we're top of the second with Pittsburgh and Detroit no score. And the Cardinals, Reds no score, I believe. Yankees and Baltimore no score. So that ball was hit a long way there. That's exactly what the Guardians needed there to get going.
Yeah, like we said, the Giants don't really stand a chance in a lot of the games the rest of the season. And this guy, Wisenhunt, will in all likelihood not be part of their starting rotation next season, but it is what it is. 3-0 already for Cleveland. And, could the Giants score 3 runs in this game, Joe? Probably not.
No, let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy. That's absurd.
Not a high-scoring team. So, that's quite the start for Cleveland today. They absolutely need some wins. They got to rack up some wins here.
O'Neal Cruz, by the way, in the outfield, which means just don't hit the ball to him, and you should be okay because he is not very good. The Cubs and White Sox. What a battle last night in Chicago here, Craig. Should Gausman on the mound, I think, for the Cubs here tonight. I think it's going to be a bullpen game for the White Sox here, but another over, you think? What looks like these two lineups, though, finally have it heading in the right direction.
Man, I mean, Pete Crow Armstrong's just on fire. So, yeah, probably some runs scored on both sides, I would say, today. By the way, Pete Crow Armstrong moved after last night to -150 to win the MVP. It's the biggest favorite he's been. And Ohtani's plus 120. I still like Ohtani. But yeah, I absolutely could see some run scoring tonight. Like I told you yesterday, what was the summary of that game between the White Sox and Cubs? Who the hell knows? One team's winning, the other team's winning, the other team's winning, the other. I mean, same thing's gonna happen tonight. When the rivalry games are involved, Joe, I stay away from those games, man. I try to find a better game on the board. By the way, the second team to score a run tonight, unfortunately, as I am going to depart this show and have to hope for the best, is the Phillies have jumped on top of the Marlins 1-0 here. Unless it's more than that, it seems like it's 1-0 I'm seeing right now.
First and third, 2 outs, though. Don't you worry about Phillips is coming in. You're going to be just fine there, Mish. Let me also, and Dodgers, we know the Dodgers, we didn't think they were going to sweep tonight. Is tonight the best shot for Colorado to get it done?
Is Blake Snell's tomorrow? Is that correct?
Eric Lauer tonight.
Is tomorrow.
Lauer's tonight.
Tomorrow.
So tomorrow, I believe it's going to be right back to Yamamoto, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it? No, I don't think so. Let me check that up. I think
Let's
I saw.
See, who is it? Is Skeens pitching anymore, or is he not allowed to? How does that work? Dodgers.
Skeens is pitching
Suzuki.
tomorrow.
Oh, no, they're Freeland against Suzuki. They have plenty of opportunities here.
Yeah, I could see Colorado winning even tomorrow, maybe. Yeah, I think Colorado's going to win today or tomorrow.
I think you got a good opportunity here to get it done. And by the way, I am watching Ashcraft. This guy the ball is like falling off.
He's the man.
His curve.
He's the man.
Wow. And he's not throwing. strike one. Good. Take it. No problem. Then he's got you swinging out of your eyeballs.
He's
pretty,
good, Joe.
Pretty impressive stuff right now. My goodness. The rotation on that ball
tough to beat.
That's going to be very interesting to see how that goes there. But Rodon's still out there. Looked like he's sweating out a child here. So might not be a long night for Rodon. Looks like he's having a hard time remembering what it is to go to work there. But they are out of the first inning here. No score against Baltimore.
How about this guy Wisenhunt in the first inning? It's still 3-0. He's still on the mound, Joe. He's thrown 26 pitches in the first inning. Oh my gosh.
He's just
26.
getting stretched out. Just getting stretched out.
And
He's going to be
the count
fine.
is 3-1. Oh my gosh. What a tough night for this kid already.
Well, you heard it here first. Craig and I, we love the Royals and we love the Angels tonight. That's what we like. Put them together and sprinkle a little something on Colorado getting the upset. As much as I thought an under last night, half of it was right if they would have stopped giving up home runs. But I think an under tonight in Colorado might not be a bad look either. Craig is on his way to watch the Royals and the Athletics. We will be back tomorrow for more game time decisions here, but plenty more baseball coming your way as in-game live game day straight ahead. Kevin Walsh, Gabe Morency, they have got you covered. Enjoy the night. Enjoy the games. We'll see you tomorrow here on The Grid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS, but then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Miami going to the Big Ten is massive. It gives the university, in my opinion, it's a strong university. It's AAU. It's got championship pedigree. And I think it would have a massive recruiting advantage, to be candid, if it were to join the Big Ten. And I think that's making some of the bigger players in that conference a little nervous.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
It's the big one. It is the big one. In-game live here on a Tuesday night on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh, Gabe Morency, plenty of Major League Baseball, a full WNBA card. And again, if last night's UC Irvine picks were any indication, Gabe will have some off-the-beaten-path items for you. But none of it matters. Game of the year, the Toronto Tempo hosting the Indiana Fever, the best offense in this league against the worst defense in this league. And for some reason, the smart folks saw this game and said, too high. You got a lesson to learn. It's going to take you 2 hours to learn it. There will be 200 points in this game. Give me